Welcome back to the Everything History podcast for episode 42, the Gilman Scholarship. This episode, obviously, is a step away from Ammianus Marcellinus' Res Gestarum, although still very much related to history, or at least the study of it. The topic of this episode being, as you heard, the Gilman Scholarship.
I discharged my last duty as King and Emperor.
This is Everything History.
Everything you hold worthwhile is at stake.
We meant more to kids than Jesus did, or religion at that time.
I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
The full name of this program is the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship Program, and it is sponsored by the United States government for college and university students in the United States. The purpose of the program is to assist students with a lack of financial resources in studying abroad. I dedicate this episode and my time to detailing the program because I myself am a Gilman Scholar, or a former Gilman Scholar. Meaning I applied for and received a scholarship from the foundation. That being the case, in this episode I will detail my experience as a Gilman Scholar and also explain the program itself. I do this for two purposes: to bring awareness to the program, and to encourage you or someone you know to apply for the scholarship if you are able. Now, before I detail my experience, let me hit the important points of the scholarship program. To be considered, one needs to meet the following requirements: be a U.S. citizen, an undergraduate student, a recipient of the Pell Grant, and, obviously, be studying abroad. And the deadline for applications in the fall is usually early October. This year was October 4th. And the other application period is in the spring of 2017, and that deadline will be March 1st of 2017. The fall application period is for students seeking to study abroad in the spring semester. And the deadline in spring is for students studying abroad in the summer or fall of 2017, or the entire academic year of 2017-2018. In the event that you are listening to this after such dates, realize that those application periods are cyclical, such that every year in the fall or spring you can apply to the program. Seek them out at www.iie.org. If selected, you can receive up to a maximum of $8,000. Now, about the specifics of the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship. To repeat, the program is for U.S. citizens who are undergraduate students that are receiving the Pell Grant. You can be attending a 2-year or 4-year college as long as it is an accredited U.S. institution of higher education. The program is named after Benjamin Gilman, a retired congressman from New York, and it is sponsored by the Department of State. Specifically, the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, and, moreover, the funds are available thanks to the International Academic Opportunity Act. Interestingly, what this means is that if you are chosen, you are being sponsored by the Department of State. The program offers around 2,800 scholarships, and the award amount depends on your length of study, where you are studying, and what you are studying. The award is typically maxed out at $5,000, with many awardees receiving a portion of that amount. However, if you are studying a language that is deemed by the government as a critical language, then you can receive as much as $8,000 to pursue your studying abroad. These critical languages include, at the time of this recording, the following: Arabic, Azerbaijani, Bangla, Chinese, Hindi, Indonesian, Japanese, Korean, Persian, Punjabi, Russian, Swahili, Turkish, and Urdu. Now, to apply for the Gilman Scholarship, you need to go to http://gilmanapplication.iie.org and follow the instructions therein. You can also find the links I've been mentioning in the description of this episode. You will need to provide your full transcripts, fill out the application, receive online certifications from your study abroad and financial aid advisors, and provide a short essay. It may sound like a lot, but it really is a quick process, and you have nothing to lose by applying. So please apply, remember the deadlines, and spread the word about the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship. Now, as I mentioned, I myself received the award in the spring cycle of 2016, and I was able to study abroad during the summer in Vienna, Austria. There I studied crisis diplomacy with a political science course at the Vienna University of Economics and Business. in conjunction with the University of Illinois. We studied a series of crises across modern European history, dating from the 1830s to Nazi Germany's takeover of Austria through Anschluss. All of these events we studied for the purpose of understanding modern crisis negotiations and, specifically, why European politics are the way they are, and how they function in regard to modern crises. All such political knowledge extends beyond Europe, of course, but we focused in particular on the modern major powers of the Eurasian continent. Being in Vienna made this a particularly amazing experience because for nearly a millennia, Vienna has served as a city of negotiation, trade, and politics, often serving as a neutral ground for the discussion of world politics. Including the modern example of the United States-Iran deal concerning the Iranian nuclear program. Vienna, Austria was also a prime location for the study of crisis diplomacy because many of the crises we were discussing were located in or around Vienna. If I recall correctly, the crises we studied were the Second Eastern Crisis, the Crimean, the Franco-Prussian, the July Crisis of 1914, and Hitler's use of Anschluss on Austria. We also studied the Italian and German wars of unification. Vienna was involved in all of these crises, some more than others, as the capital of the Habsburg monarchy or its national form of Österreich after the Central Powers' defeat in World War I. This podcast being one dedicated to history, I feel the itch to address the aforementioned conflicts. The Second Eastern Crisis was in 1839 and involved the Concert of Europe, the Ottoman Empire, and Muhammad Ali's Egypt. The crisis originated for very complicated reasons, but in its inception, involved only the Ottomans and Ali because Egypt at this time was part of the Ottoman Empire and Ali's Egypt by the late 1830s was stronger than the rest of the empire. Ali was aware of his power and openly provoked conflict with the rest of the empire in hopes of gaining more territory and independence. The Concert of Europe did not like this intervention into European power by Ali. The concert, by the way, is not an orchestra group. Rather, it was the name for the major powers of Europe that worked together after the Napoleonic Wars in order to maintain stability and prevent another continental war from ravaging Europe. The major powers of the concert were the British, French, Austrians, Prussians, and Russians, and they conducted themselves most often from Vienna. The concert stepped in the 1839 Second Eastern Crisis to prevent Ali's expansion. Their reasoning primarily being to prevent a large-scale war and to keep the Ottoman Empire alive as Europe's Near East buffer state. The concert succeeded in this regard in 1839 after strong-arming Ali and his armies into submission. The Crimean Crisis is a reference to the one in 1853, not the one just a few years ago. This crisis largely concerned the Russians and the Ottomans. But soon Emperor Napoleon III of the French and the British got involved. Again, the Concert of Europe tried to resolve the dispute, but they failed despite the fact that peace was almost agreed to several times. And as a result, the somewhat pointless Crimean War followed. The Franco-Prussian crisis in 1870 was very interesting and involved Napoleon III's France and Bismarck's Prussia. The crisis and war that followed was very avoidable, but France failed to ignore the political taunts of Otto von Bismarck, and the Franco-Prussian War broke out as a result. A war that Prussia dominated quickly. Now, before I address the July crisis, I must say that although the Crimean and Franco-Prussian crises both led to what political scientists would call unnecessary wars, they are not to be perceived as utter failures by the Concert of Europe. They were certainly not successes either, but neither war involved all major European powers, and neither became continental conflicts. The July crisis of 1914 was a total failure, however, and marked the dissolution of the Concert of Europe. The July crisis is what happened after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The result of the crisis was World War I. This war, too, was quite unnecessary for most of the major powers, if not all, but all ended up fighting each other. The Triple Entente of Russia, France, and Britain versus the Central Powers of Germany and Austro-Hungary, along with many, many minor states. Those were some of the crises we focused on, looking particularly at the negotiations involved with each, the successes and failures alike. We also met with and visited the U.S. Embassy and some of their diplomats. We also visited the United Nations offices in Vienna, the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and we were also able to sit in on a meeting of the Council of Europe. All very interesting and incredible to be a part of, and also all made possible by the Gilman Scholarship. And it also goes without saying that I was able to experience a completely different culture and society while there. Alright, thank you for listening. In the next episode, I'll be back with more from Ammianus Marcellinus' History of the Late Roman Empire, or his Res Gestarum.
Thank you very much.